We all grow up over the years, and I've grown up. I think when I started my YouTube channel, I was 16, about to turn 17 years old. And there's a reason when I flipped this channel from sports to what it is now that I didn't keep a lot of the older videos on there because, well, I mean, I didn't learn how to hide my bias and not that I show bias a lot anymore. I mean, of course, I'm still like, yeah, go Ravens, go Orioles, but I'm still able to analyze a game now without being biased and this, that, and the other. And there was also just some topics that maybe I didn't have a full understanding of that I was, completely wrong on now looking back at it, or maybe should have, said in a different way that I do regret now. And now, me being 24 years old, I've learned that, and I've learned a lot more in other things than I think I could have learned from, other certain topics now. America has changed over the years, and there's things that we just shouldn't do, shouldn't say, and people say, oh, it's just because, well, it's too soft, this, that, and the other. But in the end, when there's stuff like this that's happening in the workplace, there's a reason that we want it to stop, and we don't want it to be like an occurring thing anymore. Because when you're in a workplace, people aren't supposed to feel insulted, uncomfortable, or even get ill from working too much. They're supposed to, feel comfortable so that way they can come in, make the money they need to make so they can live, and, they either decide to move on later or they don't. And the point I'm getting to this is, and I know this is stupid because I was never one that worked there, but I feel like being a part of this community, it's like I have to say something, and that's the whole Rooster Teeth achievement hunter thing that's been going on. They've been through a lot of controversy the past couple of years. I think it started with the Ryan Haywood, Adam Kovic thing, with them meeting underage fans or sending underage fans pictures and all this kind of stuff, and them moving on from that, I guess you can say. And, that all kind of, took its toll. Everybody said what they had to say. Everything went on. And that seemed to kind of be it. And there were all these layoffs happening, but nobody was really saying anything. It just seemed like your typical layoffs. And now lately there's been a lot out there that the Rooster Teeth environment has been very transphobic, racist, homophobic in a lot of situations. And I'm not saying that's been everybody there. I still think there's some people at that company that what you see on camera is genuinely them in person. I feel like there's good people there. I'm not sitting here saying that everybody who's worked or has associated with this company is terrible. And even some of the former people who worked there said, look, I'm friends with people at the company. That doesn't mean that it's a terrible company overall for, majority of the people that run it, like the higher ups in the company here. And by higher ups, I mean not like the founders, but like the people who are, in charge of the actual, like, founders and stuff like that. I don't really know how to say it because, again, you have the people that founded the company, and then you have the people that they've turned the company over to. That just kind of seems to be, the main problem here. As one of their workers, I think his name's Caden, came out as transgender around, I think it was 2016, as he said in his statement, and they were using the F slur before all that was going on, before he came out, and they were kind of using a disguise word for it because they knew if they said it on air, things wouldn't go well for them. And then all of a sudden she comes out as transgender, and this F slur just stops, and they start kind of using him as bait, like, look, we hire people in the LGBTQIA plus group, and it's okay to hire people in that community. I'm not saying that, but when you're using them as, like, you say our company isn't diverse enough, well, here you go. It just doesn't make them feel like he's hired for the job at hand, for being good at their job. It just seems like you hired them because, well, you want to say that, hey, we got a transgender person working for us, so we must be good. And then a lot of, the people who have worked there that have been black and all this kind of stuff have said that there has been stuff thrown around, especially one of them mentioning that there would just randomly be the N-word written on this blackboard for no apparent reason whatsoever. Shows you the people they have there when they think that, oh, that's a funny joke, let's play this prank, just jot the N-word down on this blackboard and all this kind of stuff. And of course, like I said, the F slur, that's the homophobic thing. There's probably a lot worse, more homophobic stuff that the company has been through since then. But yeah, I mean, I guess back then when you look at Rooster Teeth, they had this formula going, and I was one of those people that fell for it. I was like a 13, 14-year-old kid who I guess just didn't understand and thought when they said these words or when they made this joke, even though they said something offensive in it, if you claim it as a joke, then it's not offensive. When in this case, I mean, there's still a such thing as jokes, but you have to be more careful with how you say things, because you can make jokes about people in certain communities, but for the people that still use the slurs and all this kind of stuff, it just seems like you're pushing like, but it's a joke, and you're just so, you want to use it so bad, so you say, well, it's just a joke, so I can use the word, when at this point it's just like, look, if the word is offensive, then you shouldn't be using it. I don't care if people use that, oh, it's just a word mentality, but it's just like, it's hurtful to a group of people, so why are you even saying it in the first place, even if you are using it as a joke? You can find a way to joke about that community without using that word and without being stereotypical, you know? I feel like we're so stuck into how the world used to be back then, especially just 10 years ago, considering most of this stuff that Rooster Teeth is being called out for was 9, 10 years ago, 8, something like that. It's just like, you know, this isn't 2013 anymore. This is 2022. We need to get ahead of our ass and realize that shit that was going on that long ago isn't going to fly here. And, you know, I mean, do I believe some of the people who have apologized that have maybe been like, I said this and did this back then and it sucks and I'm a changed person? Yes, I really, really do. There's the one British guy that works there, Gavin, who put a thing out on Twitter saying, you know, I was in on this joke with this Caden person, and, you know, looking back at it now, I regret it, and he's helped me learn so much, and I've come to regret what I used to do back then when he would say things and you know, use it as a joke, and it turns out it's just not anything that you should be joking about, like all this. Like, he's one of the ones I would say that maybe was doing that stuff back then, but has learned from his mistakes, and he's not the only one. But I can definitely tell the people there that a lot of these people are talking about are the ones that did it. Like, I don't want to name names either, but it's blatantly obvious when you hear some of the stuff that went down. You know in that group of people who they're talking about. And the fact that I was once a fan of this community and a part of this community, it just kind of sickens me to know that I was so ignorant on these situations, and like my standards were so low that I just didn't give a shit. And with Rooster Teeth, I mean, I've since unsubscribed from Rooster Teeth, Achievement Hunter, Let's Play, Funhouse, and I don't think I've watched a single video off of any of those channels since like 2017, which is, you know, I was 19, so I was still a teenager at that point. But even at that point in time, I was growing up a little bit more, and I was like, this is just not funny to me anymore. And I think it was just because I got over the whole, edgy comedy and dark and being controversial is just, you know, like, it wasn't funny to me anymore. I needed, I needed something else. Like, I'm growing up now. I need, like, people who understand comedy now than to just try to pull off this controversial bullshit and do whatever. And, you know, I'm all for, you know, shock value and stuff like that, but you can go overboard with shock value, and when you go overboard, that means you're doing something wrong with it. And with Rooster Teeth, I don't want to say what they were doing with shock value, but it seems like they kept this tactic up for a while, and then when they were called out for it, they just sort of changed their tone all of a sudden. It came off very hypocritical, and when multiple people would come out and be like, hey, this is going on, or this and that, it would all be swept under the rug like nothing was happening, and that the company was fine the way it is, when clearly it wasn't here. And, I hate when I find out that I associated myself with something like that. And that's why with my YouTube channel, I strive for a community of positivity and, being kind to each other and being true to you guys. What you see on camera is what you're going to see on person when you see me, except for maybe the talking part. I can be, a little bit of a shy person, but if I get to know you, then I will talk a little bit more. And, if I say something to somebody and they're like, hey, I don't like that, then, I'll be the first to be like, okay, then I won't, say stuff like that anymore. It doesn't bother me when someone calls me out and says, hey, I don't like the way you said that, or I don't like the way you're acting and whatnot. It's like, if you truly feel uncomfortable around me because of something I said or did, I want you to tell me. That way it never happens again, and I can change myself and I can learn from my mistakes. And that's what I've been doing pretty much over the years. I mean, I look back at some of my old videos, and it's not that I said or did anything in those videos. I was just so naive as to what I wanted to be as a content creator and what I wanted my community to be, that I just felt like I was making these half-assed videos and wasn't putting enough effort into them. But now I feel like since last year, I've been, keeping this schedule and been able to put out better content. And now I know what I want my community to be about. I just want people to come together because of their love for music, comic books, movies, and all this kind of stuff. And we can have friendly, positive conversations. And majority of the non-positive people, I'm not saying like the ones who are like, this sucks. I'm talking about the people who, in the comments, type the shit that shouldn't be said on the internet. I can kick them out and all this kind of stuff, because I want people to know that when I say I want a positive community, that I want it to be positive. And people who come in and try to ruin that will be gone. And I mean that with my heart. I'm not just sitting here saying that for, shits and giggles for me to try to look better. But with Rooster Teeth, they're trying to push this thing about, oh yeah, we respect everybody of every kind, when in the past clearly you didn't, and the only reason you're hiring some of the people you are now, at least this is what I think, is because you were just too scared to fully admit your mistakes and say, yeah, we did wrong, when we know that it was a lot worse than it was. Or maybe you're playing it off as, oh well, that was years ago, stuff was different back then. And again, that may be the case, but when your company has shown that it hasn't really changed as much as it has, because keep in mind, Caden didn't leave Rooster Teeth till last year, and they were still mistreating them, and were underpaying them significantly for working a 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. shift with short deadlines. Most people can't work under those conditions, considering Cade moved to LA, and $40K a year in LA is not very well living conditions. I personally never lived there. I lived in the West Coast. I live in Pennsylvania, for God's sakes. But, I'm pretty sure $40K a year in Los Angeles is just not going to cut it for anybody and whatnot. You might barely be able to make it, but like barely. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on things. And I'm basically making this video to let you guys know too, that if you're ever friends with somebody who you've been friends with when you were kids, but as you've grown up, you realize that you don't feel as attached to them as you once were. Or it's the same with YouTube. If you used to like this YouTuber, this YouTube channel, and they're just not communicating with you like they used to because of the way they did things back then, and now that you're older, you realize that this content is just not it. Like, your brain starts to kick in that, wait a minute, this isn't what it used to be, because, well, now I'm an adult, and, sometimes our mindset just changes, and this video I made was for me to just tell you that. And if you ever need to get away from stuff like that, then don't be afraid to get away. Don't be afraid to cut yourself off from stuff like that. It's something that can be good for people immensely. It could help with mental health, it could help with all this kind of stuff, and it can just take like all this negativity away, because once you associate yourself with some community, I feel like people think you're forever linked to it. But I just, with the Rooster Teeth community, I just couldn't anymore, and I said, I really don't watch their videos anymore. And now, knowing the type of company that it is, I just can't sit here and support it. If you're one of the people who watch it, who want to support it even through all this, support it, I don't care. But I just can't support this company that is saying one thing, even though they're doing the complete opposite of that, and being very hypocritical in this situation. Like, oh, we did do a lot of this stuff, but now we do this, even though apparently it hasn't changed at all. So yeah, that's really it. That's how I feel about it. And yeah, like I said, not that most of you care. I'm not making this video because I'm done with Rooster Teeth. That wasn't my main thing, but I guess, that's kind of what I was saying to kind of get to the point overall as to what I made this video for. So yeah, that's it for me. Stay safe out there, and until then, I guess I'll catch you guys in the next one.